Buster Olney, thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings. Every Thursday at 5:15, we're replaying the best of Buster at 6:30. And Buster, you're fresh back from Cincy, my friend, and you wrote 30 core questions for all 30 teams at ESPN.com for ESPN.com insiders. It sounds like you're pretty confident with where the Yankees stand right now.
Yeah, as they sit here today, they don't have a glaring weakness at all. It's not like they're saying, oh, my goodness, they need a starting pitcher, they need a bullpen piece, or, a big hole in their lineup. They're going to try Rob Refsnyder here in the days to come, and their expectation is that, they feel like he's going to work out and be the guy, and if he's not, they'll probably have some opportunities to make it better before the trade deadline. But on top of that, I was looking at this, and I've always been interested in strength of schedule, and I know some general managers look at that as well. They have, out of the remaining games on the schedule, only 18 games against teams with records over 500 because they finished their games with the Royals, they finished their games with the Angels, and that really bodes well. And just by comparison, for the sake of comparison, the Chicago White Sox have 41 games left against teams with records over 500. So one way or the other, I think the Yankees are in a pretty good spot.
Wow. We had Leyritz on this week, Buster, and he said this team reminds him of 93 through 95 because of young guys like Refsnyder starting to crack the door and come into the team. Maybe lightning strikes twice, new core four type setup where Judge, Severino, Lindgren all come up, and this is a younger, better team.
They certainly have rebuilt the farm system. I'll wait to compare, this group to the guys that came out of that core four group. But I know they're really confident about it, and I do think that they're in a great position going up the trade deadline because, and I'm sure that every time they have conversations with other teams, they'll ask about some of those great prospects. But I think the Yankees' perspective is, look, we'll take on your bad contract if you want. For example, and this is purely, I want to make this clear, this is 100% speculation on my part, but if, for example, the San Diego Padres were to call them and say, we need to shed some money, we're trying to get our payroll back in terms of the flexibility, what do you give us for Craig Kimbrell? The Yankees are in a great position to say, we'll take the contract and we'll give you a B-plus prospect. We're not going to give you anything great. They did that sort of deal with Lance Berkman a few years ago. They did that sort of deal last year with Martin Prado, and I think they're going to do that this year. They're really in an enviable spot here over the next 2.5 weeks.
Buster Olney, thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings with Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team. Buster, you said that the Yankees are in a good spot. You said that multiple times. Are they the best team in the AL East?
Right now they are. I think that's fairly clear, and I think it was affirmed by what we saw down the stretch. The Orioles are having all kinds of problems getting offense out of their outfield positions. The Blue Jays are having a difficult time finding pitching to complement the great offense that they have, and that's legitimate, and it's part of the reason why I think between now and July 31st, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Jays as one of the most aggressive teams. But overall, right now, there's no question the Yankees are in a good spot, and I'm feeling good about my preseason pick, having them in the playoffs. They didn't have them winning the division, but among other stupid picks I did, I actually got that one right.
For the record, we still have that promo playing, so you're welcome for that as well. We make you look good every single day right now.
Oh, there you go. Well, I really hope that you're not playing the pick where the Seattle Mariners winning the American League.
Shh, don't worry about that one. I deleted it. That's how we that's how we cover ourselves all the time. We just delete it out of the archive, and everybody goes, "Wait, I thought you said," and I'm like, "Prove it. Where is it at? You don't see it. I don't see it."
Yeah, sadly, ESPN.com doesn't do the same thing. Although I'm feeling good about my World Series pick of the Pirates winning the World Series. They're playing great right now.
All right, we'll find that promo, too. We'll make sure to keep that's in circulation, too, Buster.
There you go.
Buster, Manfred gets an A-plus for the changes to the Home Run Derby. What mind-blowing decision is coming next from the mind of Manfred?
Well, just the fact that he's willing to make changes speaks a lot to a change in attitude. And let me just give you an example of how fluid the situation was on Monday. At 1 o'clock, I was sitting in a production meeting for Home Run Derby, and we're looking outside, and there's a storm going on, and the sirens are going off in downtown Cincinnati because the weather's so bad. And we're being told in that meeting that they were literally rewriting the rules during the afternoon because they didn't know what the weather situation was going to be. They shortened the window, and 90 minutes before the competition, I was talking to Charlie Frazier, who was throwing to his brother Todd in the Derby, and he was like, now, what's the rule? How many points or how many seconds do we get if you hit 2 homers of 420 feet? And I showed him my notebook with the stuff on it. I said, no, actually, it's 425 feet, and you get an extra 30 seconds. He's like, oh, okay, I got it. I bumped into Sandy Guerrero, who was throwing to Prince Fielder, and I said, well, you're the number 7 seed, so you're probably going to have to go first in this competition the way that I understand it. He said, no, we're going to go second. And I said, Sandy, I'd go check that if I were you. I think you're going first. And he went running off to confirm that's the way it was. And yet what we got was an unbelievable event, and it was a tremendous night. I really hope that baseball learns from what happened in the Home Run Derby with the injection of competition, with the head-to-head competition, the bracket style, and really take another look at the All-Star Game, because it has changed through the years, and it's gotten away from that type of competition, even though they tell us that it counts because it determines home field advantage in the World Series. And this week, guys, I was looking back at the 1965 All-Star Game, National League lineup. The leadoff hitter in that game was Willie Mays. He played the whole game. The number 2 hitter for the National League was Hank Aaron. He played the whole game. And the other night, with the exception of Mike Trout, you basically saw the starting players come out of the game. And you think about it, you go to a music concert and the headline act walks off after the first 15 minutes, and you're left with the number 2 and the number 3 and the number 4 acts. Are you going to stay? No. Do people buy tickets to go watch Yasmani Grandal play, or do they want to see Buster Posey or Yadier Molina? That's why I really hope that going forward, baseball, Rob Manfred basically tells the managers, look, we pick these all-stars. They get to come to the event. They're honored before the game. But when you play the game with the position players, play your best players. Leave Mike Trout in the game the whole way. Leave Bryce Harper in the game the whole way. And use your extra guys with an effort, pinch running, pinch hitting, that type of thing, to try to win the game. And don't worry about the Little League participation trophy stuff.
Buster Olney with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. Thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings every week at 5:15. Best of Buster at 6:30. And Buster, you were in Cincinnati for the week. What's your gut? Is Manfred going to allow Pete Rose back in baseball?
No, absolutely not. I don't think so. We interviewed Manfred on our set for Baseball Tonight, Carl Ravitch and myself, and the phrase that he said stuck out to Carl and I, and we talked about it after Rob left. He said at one point, I'm a rules guy. And he was talking about reviewing the current rules and the process with everything going on with Pete Rose. And remember, they have 10 other players in history who've been banned for this offense. None of them have been let back in. Nothing that has happened since 1989 with Pete Rose has really changed. And I do think that there is a weariness beginning to settle in this topic, and it's really reflected in what we saw on Johnny Bench this week. He was on Mike and Mike on Tuesday morning, and he was asked about Pete Rose, and he talked about how, look, he's tired of excuses being made for Pete. Pete's had opportunities to work this out, and each time he's blown it. And he's never really come out and fully told the truth and acknowledged exactly what's happened. And then I don't know if you guys saw that night, but when Pete Rose was introduced, he went out, he high-fived Joe Morgan, high-fived Barry Larkin. And when he went to high-five Johnny Bench's body language was like, okay, here we go. Think about it. Johnny Bench and Joe Morgan are like all-time great players, and they're spending the last 20 years answering questions about Pete Rose and how much he screws up, okay? That's got to be tiresome after a while. And the fact that there's no support, little to no support among Pete's peers to let him back into the sport, I think it would be one of the reasons why Rob will turn it down.
Wow. Buster Olney thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings. And Buster, the Johnny Bench conversation on Mike and Mike, Levack and I thought he was great. We played that on our entire show. We could feel like you could hear just how real his feelings and emotions and insight was. He's tired of this. He is burnt out on Pete Rose in general.
Well, and why wouldn't you be?
Yeah.
As they say, Johnny Bench the other day introduces one of the four, greatest living players. And what's the topic he's asked about the most? Is Pete Rose going to be reinstated? And we've yet to see, and I wrote about this in a column a couple weeks ago, does Pete really care that much? Does he really care that much about getting into baseball? Is it really that big of a deal to him? Or is he still kind of in denial? There was a Sports Illustrated piece that came out this week, and in the opening few paragraphs, he's making an argument to the writer, Tom Verducci. He said, essentially, I wasn't kicked out for betting on baseball, right? And he was making a semantic argument, talking about how he agreed to the lifetime ban. It wasn't actually proved that he bet on baseball. And when you read that, you feel like, really? 25, 26 years after the fact, with all these documents in place, and you're not at some point just going to say, everything, that went on was my fault. He still, has something, he's not happy about the way the process played out. He still gets upset when talking about the investigator, John Dowd, as opposed to just saying, I blew it, and leave it at that, and really own the mistake. And I know from talking with people in baseball, they're waiting for him to, offer some sort of penance and say, I messed up, it's all my fault, and what can I do to help? And they really haven't heard that, and they've made it very clear to him that I think through the years that their preference would be that he not be aligned with these casinos, given the fact that he was banned for gambling, and he hasn't changed that. And I really think baseball would give him an opportunity to make a good living within the sport as, working on behalf of the Reds or the Phillies or some other teams. But I think there's no chance that they would ever consider letting him in while he was still working for a casino, and yet Pete hasn't changed.
Buster, Rob Manfred, one of the other things that he's, his quotes are being thrown around for is he's alluded to the possibility of expansion of the league. Is that crazy?
I don't think it's entirely crazy. Now, is it crazy in the next 3 years? Yes. On the other hand, is it a bad thing that Major League Baseball has that out there? Think about it. Strategically, it would be a really smart thing to do, in dealing with the markets in Tampa Bay and Oakland and the issues of getting him a new ballpark. It's always really nice if there's a conversation about Montreal or Portland or Nashville or any number of other cities, Buffalo. And I think that's probably part of the reason why this is out there. But at some point, remember, what has to happen for expansion teams to happen is that somebody has to come in, some owner, and pay a lot of money to Major League Baseball owners to let them in. And think about Major League Baseball as they try to find ways to make more money. They probably, at this point, with the Dodgers being sold for $2 billion, could charge an owner $500 million to $1 billion just for the right to have an expansion team. That would be a pretty good chunk of change.
ESPN's Buster Olney with Armen Levack, thanks to Buffalo Wild Wings. Buster, could not help but notice that Mike Trout is living up to your notion of being better than Mickey Mantle. In fact, I just call him Mickey Trout now. Hope that's okay.
Yeah, and doesn't he seem to carry himself in the same way? He's so likable, and it really jumped out at me the other day the way that other players responded to him afterward. And the guy is 23 years old, and I've seen examples of young players who are not liked by veterans, who view them as punks, and they don't give them the time of day. And yet after Trout hit the leadoff home run the other day, I was doing interviews outside of the American League clubhouse, and whether it's an Adam Jones or a Albert Pujols or a Dallas Keuchel or a Josh Donaldson, they're all coming out and they're making references to him being the best player in the game. And Josh Donaldson, talking about how when he hit the home run, you're not very surprised. And on the other hand, Donaldson said to Trout in the dugout, yeah, thanks a lot. How am I supposed to follow up that as the number 2 hitter in the American League lineup?
Yeah.
He loves the stage, and he has so much respect from the other players, and he's just getting started. My goodness, the other day I was looking at it, he's got like 750 career hits almost. He's got about 150 home runs, or closing in on that. He scored about 500 runs, and he's 23 years old.
Wow.
Incredible. It still pisses off Levack,
Yeah,
by the way.
I want to like him so much, but with Armen just constantly beating the drum of he's better than Mickey Mantle, it's just I can't. I'm starting to dislike Mike Trout, which is weird.
Every day, Buster.
See, Levack, I thought you were going to say you didn't like him because, of course, the Angels took him with the compensation pick that they used when the Yankees signed Mark Teixeira. It was the Yankees pick that with which they picked Trout, A, and B, at the time they picked him, he was one pick away from getting to the Yankees. And I can tell you that from talking with people in the Yankees war room, they were watching that draft develop. They loved Trout. They assumed he was going to be one of the first 4 or 5 players in the draft. And then as that played out, as Trout was dropping, they're like, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, he's going to make it down. And they got snagged right before they were going to take him.
And boys and girls, what you just heard is Buster called twisting the knife. That's exactly what that was. I loved it.
But, Buster, I will say you are the only person who's made that better for me because of the news of future Yankee Bryce Harper. That has kind of made it a little better for me.
Well, see, but now I'm going to make it worse. Because if we just assume that Bryce Harper, and we don't really know that, if we assume Bryce Harper is going to wind up with the Yankees, could you imagine an outfield of Trout and Harper?
So both. So we get both. Okay, I'm good with that. All right. Future Yankee Mike Trout as well. I'm good.
Hey,
there you go.
Buster, what's the latest on the trade market? What are you hearing out there?
Slow. It's slow. One executive I spoke with, and I'm like, how many teams you talk to? And he said 2 over 5 days. The bottom line is that there are a lot of teams that feel like that they have a chance to win. They're not ready to jump in, and the expectation is there's going to be a flurry of movement in the last 72 to 96 hours before the deadline. But, we'll see which teams, begin to pull out and declare themselves a seller leading up to then.
From what you're hearing today, is your gut the Yankees are able to make a move, the Mets are not?
The Yankees will make moves because at some point there are going to be teams that will essentially say, you know what, we're not going to win this year. We might as well save a lot of money, and so we're going to dump a contract or two. And those are the type of things that the Yankees are going to do. And the Mets, I have no expectation they're going to do anything. I've heard nothing different, nothing to change from the notion that they're not going to take on money. When you look at a guy like Jay Bruce of the Reds, who's out there, the Reds have told other teams he's available. He's owed $5 million for the rest of this year. He's owed $12.5 million for next year. He clearly, if you bring him in, would give you more depth. It would allow you to work through injuries like we've seen with Michael Kadire, allow you to play some matchups, allow you to do different things. And there's just no feel that they're going to be willing to do that, which I, again, repeat what I've said. I find it to be ridiculous. This is a franchise that has a chance to do some damage in October, and we certainly got a reminder of that the other night by how great Jacob deGrom was.
Yeah, absolutely. It's disappointing. ESPN's Buster Olney. What's not disappointing is when you become an ESPN insider and you get to read his blog every day. Right now, Buster has the key questions, the core questions for all the teams in baseball, no matter who your team is. Fascinating stuff at ESPN.com. Buster, as always, man, thank you so much for your time today, and we'll do it again next week, my friend.
Okay, guys, thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Buster. Appreciate you, man. Buster Olney, brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings and Clifton Park Center, where Levack and I are doing the show tomorrow live from 3 to 6:30. And during that time, Levack, we are giving away some goodies.
Yeah, tickets to see the Yankees field level, only 18 rows back against the Twins. I'm sorry, I'm just drawing up my outfield of Trout, Gardner, and Harper, and I'm going to need beers tomorrow. Will you buy?
Yeah, I will, because it's happy hour tomorrow. It's happy hour tomorrow at Buffalo Wild Wings. While we're there, enjoy that. Win some Yankee tickets. Armen and Levack live from Buffalo Wild Wings tomorrow from 3 to 6:30 on 104.5 The Team.